I'm gonna try this one more time. Um, Deer season is a sacred time of year. Not gonna lie. I wish I was going out this year. But when I was younger, hell, I'll put it to you this way. The first year I started the job I'm at now, they told me, well, until you got a year in, you can't take off. You can only take off the week of shutdown, and that's it. And I said, look, I quit good jobs over deer season. So I got off that year, and glad I did, cause I don't know. I'm lying to you. This was a few years before. I forget exactly what year. I know I started there in 2007, so I wasn't there yet. Yeah, this was about the time I was working at my grandpappy's place, and I was a bit of a problem child, and I went from I left home when I was 16, and I worked for a little while. I worked for about a year and a half, 2 years at another person's place, living there and working there. And so I was probably about between 18 and 19 when this all went down. And at my grandfather's place, you all know him as Pop Pop from previous videos. I was working for $20 a day plus room and board. And that's one of the best experiences I could have ever had, because it taught me that hard labor ain't nothing but a thing. And my belly was always full. I had a roof over my head, and I had $20. It taught me how to conserve my money properly. Now, when I found other jobs, that might have changed, but this ain't that story. So, I needed a hunting rifle. So I wound up putting some money back, and I found a family member of mine found me a busted up Marlin 336 and 3030. Sorry, 3030. Had the brass trigger and everything. And I had bought, it had a 3.9 scope on it, and I went ahead and I bought a box of 170 grain silver tips or ballistic tips. And by the time I got that sucker shot in, I was down to 3 shells. I was green in them days. So long story short, now I don't know if I can do that with this one, but anyway, I lived on a farm that was on the Maryland-Pennsylvania line. The house was and all was in Pennsylvania, and the buildings and the land was in Maryland. So me and my good family member hunting buddy, we used that to our advantage. When November came around, after Thanksgiving, usually wound up on a Thursday or a Friday. So the Saturday was usually opener of Maryland, and the Monday after that was always opener of Pennsylvania. So I was sweating a little bit, I'm not gonna lie, but I was eager. Uh, so I hunted a spot called, what we called Squirrel Ridge, was a big hill up on the, I guess you might call it the eastern side of the property. And about nine, I'm not a big stand hunter. like being on the ground. I like that kind of ambush hunting kind of thing. And I know stand hunters, you can put it in the comments section. I get it. Thermals and wind and everything else like that. Trust me, I get it. But that's just how I prefer to do it. I don't like stands. So about 9:30, 10 o'clock, I guess it was in the morning. It might have even been later. Depends on how I held out. But the coffee that I drank that morning was screaming at me. And I ain't one to go ahead and do my business in the woods, especially in a hunting spot. So I slowly crept out and got out, and I went back and I took care of things. So I wound up heading back out, and there were the way the back fields were set up in according to the reg was there was a field here, hedgerow, field here, hedgerow, field here, hill, and that hill is what I was hunting. So I came down the road and I was crossing over, and I happened to see two splotches of brown. And up here in Pennsylvania, we got two different kind of deer. You got the light brown coat, and then you got that dark gray charcoal brown kind of coat. And there are two different breeds of deer, from the way I understand it. I couldn't tell you what they are, but they're two different breeds of deer. Well, these two are the light brown style. And I came across the middle field, and I got down into the gully of the one hedgerow, and I was laying prone, and I guess I knew it was over 100 yards, but I didn't know exactly what it was. I didn't hunt with rangefinders, and I figured they're a bit further out than 100, so we'll put it a little high on them. And anybody knows about a 30-30, they kind of got that rainbow trajectory. So I wound up, I put it on the spine of the one, because they were two yearlings. I figured the mama got shot off of them. And anybody that's going to sit there and cuss me for shooting yearlings, I'm going to tell you, just like my great uncle Perry told me. He was a southern boy from Gloucester, Virginia. And he'd sit there and look at us and say, "Well, hell, you eat rabbit, don't you?" I say, "Well, yeah." "Well, hell, that young deer's like a whole bag full of rabbits. And they're easier on my teeth." So, we never argued with him after that. And these were my first deer. So, I was laying prone, and I put it on the spine of the one, and I let her ring. And after I got to looking, the one took a circle and ran off towards the woods, and I'm looking at the other one, and because they were kind of close together, they weren't laying up on each other, but they were kind of close together. And the one ran off towards the woods, and the one just kept standing there. And I lost sight of the other one. And I was like, there ain't no way in dog shit I missed that. And I was fairly pissed off with myself. Because I'm the type of person that believes one shot, one kill. That's my motto. That's how I train. That's how I've always done things, whether it's squirrel, rabbit, whatever. Make the first shot count. So I was fairly disappointed with myself, but I wasn't gonna let it stop me. I needed to right the wrong. And so I took it a hair lower on the one that was still standing there. I put it right about where that rib cage bridges on the side, and I let it ring. And all of a sudden that one went down off to the side. He dropped right in his fucking tracks. And I said, "Hot damn, I got one." And I paced it off. It was 173 yards. And when I got up there, I realized I nicked him in the lung and pretty much took out his heart. So I sat there thinking to myself, well, hell, I didn't deviate that much off from the first one to the next one. I said, I'm going to look around, and if you know how it is, if you're shooting in a hayfield or blood trailing in a hayfield on a fresh cut hayfield, it's not fresh cut, but cut enough, blood trailing's a bit difficult. It can be done, but it's difficult. So I started wandering off to where I last seen that one run, and damn if I didn't find her in the hedgerow. So the first one I had dropped that ran was actually a young doe, and she wound up just in the tree line before the woods. And the second one I nailed was actually a button buck, and I had tagged him pretty daggone good, as I told you before. So I sat there, I was all kinds of just pleased. I didn't gut them in the field back in them days, so I drug them both back up to the truck. I don't necessarily do that now, but that's besides the point. So I was all kinds of zooted. Had my first 2 deer, and I was pleased with that. And it was like, now I got 1 shell for Monday, because that's when Pennsylvania comes in. And I was sweating it a little bit, but I wasn't really I wouldn't have been too displeased if I didn't get anything. So I went ahead and I got them gutted out, and I got them hung, and it was fairly warm, so I wound up skinning them out and doing what I had to do, getting them quartered out and getting them in the freezer. I didn't butcher them, I just got them quartered. So Monday comes around, and I was always a big fan of sprinkling Tink 69 on my rubber boots. And my one family member told me, he says, you ought to hunt this stand that morning. I said, well, I mean, the other one wasn't too bad. He said, no, just go ahead and hunt it. He had set a stand up there, and I said, all right, fine, I will. So I sat in the stand, and again, 9:30, 10 o'clock come around. That coffee was screaming at me. So I came down, and in regards to the same field setup, you had your field here, your hedgerow here, field here, hedgerow. I was in this hedgerow towards the far end, and I got down and I walked all the way up that hedgerow, and along the front of all them fields was a railroad track going through. It was abandoned railroad track. It ain't in use no more, but I did my thing, and then I just kind of walked up about 50 yards this way into this field to watch through the hedgerow and just cover the field, just kind of get my bearings to see if anything would happen. And all of a sudden, off to my left, following my trail, dead center, I caught a flash of light, and I looked over. It was the light shining off of this buck, and I thought I counted his points right. I would find out later on that it was a 7-pointer. And I was like, well, hot damn, I got a rat buck following the same trail I was just walking. Well, instead of coming all the way up, he started cutting across the field. So I was like, well, he's gonna catch a certain point, and then he's gonna deviate, because he's like where I'm here, he's getting to be about here in accordance to that field. So I leaned up against a cherry tree. It's a 3-sprout. And I leaned up against it, and I waited till his front shoulder came into play, and I squeezed my last round off. And he bucked, started running, And he ran low, and he ran around in a circle, and all of a sudden he just nosedived into the dirt, started kicking. And I was like, yes! It's like, man, it's the best dang year I ever seen. Got down there, I double lugged him. And it turned out a family member I was discussing, he was just over the ridge. He had actually gotten up and started walking too. And he came over the railroad tracks and seen I had put one down. And he turned out to be a 7-point buck. And that was the year I went into the woods with 3 rounds and came out with 3 deer. Something I have never duplicated. So, to any of you going out this season, I wish you the best of luck. Make your rounds count. Enjoy every minute of it. Because that's living. It truly is. Many blessings. Tell me about your all's first story in the comments. Or make a video about it, because I'm subscribed to just about all of you.